Just wanted to give you some general ideas on what the hinge is and how to feel it. So the hinge is, or the hip load is, as we lift and drift. So we lift, create a little bit of drift towards home, and then we sit into what a lot of people call the hinge, all right, or some people call it the drop or the hip load. A lot of different ways of saying the same thing, okay? But what we're trying to do is we're trying to create tension in that back hip. We're trying to load that back hip and then ride that position towards home, and then everything snaps and opens, hips open right into front foot strike. And that's what creates that separation and then creates this transfer of energy from the ground into our throw. So some things that we can do to feel this. First of all, if you're a hitter, a lot of guys are pretty good at getting into this position as they hit. So think about what your load is if you have a bat in your hands, and you'll notice that as the pitch is coming, we get into our load. Okay, butt sits back. We wind up the back hip. We create this tension. It's the exact same thing we're trying to feel when we pitch. So if you're struggling with it and you hit, honestly, getting a bat in your hands and just feeling yourself load up into that back hip, winding up that back hip can be super helpful in order to understand what it's supposed to feel like. Okay, if you don't have a hit, if you're not a hitter, or you can't necessarily feel it when you swing, you can take something like a med ball, and you can take a med ball and start it high, almost like a crisscross pattern. So I'm going to start it high. I'm going to bring it into my back hip, and as I bring it back, the weight of the ball is helping me get into my back hip. Okay, so what does this look like? It's butt sits behind heel, and my pelvis is rotating over my femur. Okay, and I'm winding up that back hip, and I'm riding it towards home. Okay, so I can use the med ball, like I said. Load up. We're just feeling ourselves create tension on that back hip. Okay, so you can use a med ball. Another thing that you can do is honestly just jumping or falling off the back of the mound, because part of the hip load is not only sitting our butt back, but it's also going down. Okay, not necessarily knee going down, but hip sitting back and down. Okay, so you can use just the elevation of the mound to kind of feel the same thing. So I can just land on that back foot, land on that back foot. All right, and just the weight and the drop is going to help you get into that back leg. When you're doing that, you want to just make sure that you land on a flat back foot. All right, so we got the med balls, we got the drops. Next one we can do is we can take an elastic band and we can put it around our knees. And so now we're going to make this more like closer to the actual delivery. What we don't want to have happen is we don't want this back knee to cave down too early, right? We don't want it to just go straight into internal rotation, because you'll notice as soon as this back knee caves down, my hips want to open. So using the band kind of feeds the flaw a little bit and will help you, excuse me, will help you just understand what it feels like to maintain tension and strength and stability in that back hip as you're going into your load. So you can go baby step, baby step. All we're doing is we're creating that tension. We're loading up on that backside. Same thing we felt when we had the med ball. Same thing we felt on the drop. And now we're just holding that tension as we start to make our sideways move down the mound. So baby step and go. If you want, you can even do some strides with it and just work your way down the mound. So it's baby step, go, baby step, go, baby step, go. But again, I'm holding tension in that back leg. Now, one big common misunderstanding with this is guys will externally rotate their back hip or their back leg in order to hold that tension. So, or they won't create tension and they'll actually just do this with their back leg. So guys that think, oh, I need to just point my foot, my back knee towards second, it's actually just going to make things worse, right? Remember, it's all about creating tension in that back hip as we wind it up and then releasing tension as we get ready to rotate into our throw. Okay, so if I'm just doing this, like externally rotating my back hip, I'm not creating any tension. And then what's going to happen is I have to push my way out of it. I lose separation, and then I have to get really pushy with my upper half as well, right? And so don't just think, oh, I just need to keep this perfectly beautiful back shin, right? I need to point my back knee towards second. If you ever get to the position where you're losing tension in this back hip, and in order to just externally rotate and do this, you're going to get yourself into trouble. Okay, the key is butt sits back, we create tension, and then we ride that tension towards home, right? So using the med ball to load up, hitting to load up, using the jump off the side of the mound to feel that downward pressure into creating tension, or using the band just to work on holding that tension with that back leg as we stride sideways. Those are 3 really good feels that you can do to help promote it without necessarily throwing. So